there was when we first started putting it together, there was this thing that I wanted to do, and I realized after we had already completed them that I didn't do it. And so we were talking about having a time when we were going to do it back at the first of the month, but then this thing with my shoulder came up, and so like those previous ones, though, we aren't live streaming tonight. I would rather have this be a little more intimate, and we could, just have the opportunity for that anyway, if people want to ask questions, and we can just have discussions that we don't necessarily need, not that we have any dirty laundry to air or secrets or anything like that, but just maybe not necessarily appropriate for the entire world. We will upload them on our YouTube channel, but it'll be private, and so I encourage everyone, especially those of you that are ministry leaders, to look around, see if there's any people that are not that are part of your ministry that aren't here, and but tell people, just spread the word, tell them, because this is really, as boring as the subject of it might be, it's very important. It's a very important class that we're covering tonight, and as we talk about procedures and protocols, and tell them to contact us, contact the office or Christian or myself, and then we'll send them a link where they can watch it on YouTube. And I think you all agree that we're a pretty chill church. I mean, if we look on the church-o-meter, we're probably on the far. I mean, we're just this side of freezing when it comes to chill, with that, we were also what you would qualify as being low church. And I don't know if you know what that means, but if you're familiar with what the term high church means, which would be like the Roman Catholics or the Anglican or something that, where a lot of incense and candles and priests with a lot of robes and that sort of thing, very strict liturgy, and that's high church. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are a lot of very godly men and women that are part of the high church, but we would be on the as far as the body of Christ goes, we're at the far opposite end. I mean, we're about as low as a church can get in that idea, and that's a good thing. I don't say that by way of apology. I think it's a good thing. In fact, it's because of that a lot of you come and you feel comfortable here, and you put up with this, and this is all because we have this low church sort of a mindset. The downside of that, though, with all of its pluses, the downside of it is that it kind of being low church kind of tends us to being maybe you could say lax church, and seemingly without any kind of we just kind of get together and have church. We just do church, and so we don't have any protocols or procedures or any a prescribed way of doing things. It's like the old Outback Steakhouse tagline from many years ago: "No rules, just right." And but the problem with that is Outback Steakhouse had rules. They got rules. They might try to advertise they don't have rules, but if you think they don't have rules, just try going in there barefooted and propping your old toenail fungus infected feet up on the table and see how you find out they got rules. I mean, I know that by personal experience. It just and we got rules, okay, and so as a low church / lax church, it kind of tends to, I think, breed the mindset of everyone does what they think is right in their own eyes when it comes to having church. And that's nobody's fault but mine. I kind of have this mindset is I know what the procedures and protocols and the way we do things are, and so you guys should know it too, even though you've never been told or we don't have anything in print. And so we don't have a procedures and protocols manual, but after tonight we will have, and it's going to be in a video format. So please understand that nothing that I share tonight is going to be intended or directed at any person or particular ministry or anything like that. Don't think, I think most everybody here knows me fairly well. And for those of you that don't, just ask somebody that does. And, don't take anything personal. I'm not finger pointing or anything like that. I'm just trying to, it's, people ask all the times, how do you do this? What do we do about that? And so we're just trying to kind of touch those bases tonight. And so just think of it kind of as much as the time will allow us tonight as we're having a family meeting. Just like the family sitting around the table, and there's maybe some things that you want to discuss with the family and make clear. And sometimes there could be some people that say, yeah, but what about this or whatever. Feel free to do that. I'd like to have that kind of a question, just as long as I get the final word, because I got the pulpit. In fact, if anybody has questions or input, I'm going to try to remember to pause once in a while and ask people if they have any questions. But just feel free to raise your hand at any point, and we'll pause and take the question, okay? And then also, when you do that, help me to remember to repeat the questions for the video, because I'm going to ask you guys to use your outside voice, but you're not gonna, and it's not going to come up on the video very well, because I'm the one with the microphone. And I forget to repeat the question, so help me remember to do that. And then also try to keep questions and input and comments kind of somewhat succinct. Try to keep it in a sentence or two, so that I can repeat it easily enough, and it just kind of can help keep the flow of things going on. And just remember that I'm going to be listening to you with 73-year-old ears that used to listen to a whole lot of very loud rock and roll. So, speak accordingly. So to begin with, I'm sure this is something many of you know, but for those that don't, and for posterity's sake, here are, at Calvary Chapel, we have a pastor/elder board. It's called a board of elders or board of ruling elders. This is what's in our bylaws, and these are the guys that make the decisions regarding the church. And currently there are 4 of us. There's me, then there's Pastor Chuck Briggs, and there's Pastor Christian Trena, and then most recently there's Pastor Matt Kreger. So these are if you want to know who the elders are, or sometimes you'll hear people refer to the board, which sounds kind of not very low churchy, but you hear people, that's who they're talking about. And if you have questions about why we have that or how it works, we've gone into that at other times. We can do that maybe afterwards, but it would probably take too long to try to explain in detail tonight. And so here are we have a number of ministries here in the church. And this is, I think I remembered everybody. If I forgot, maybe somebody can help me out here. But here are a list of the servant ministry leaders. This is in no particular order. These are just kind of as I was writing them down as quickly as I could. We got Brandy, who is the head of the nursery. She has been the head of the nursery for 48 years now. She's been doing it since she was in the nursery herself. We have, for our ushers and security, is Levi Chavez. He's the leader over that. And this is going to, you might, when I get these all up here, you might want to take a picture of this if you're, because these are kind of important to know too. Cleaning ministry is Aaron Rosario. Landscape or mowing is K.C. Kreger. Youth is Matt and Kendra. I just put Kendra on here too because if you've ever been around youth, you know one person can't do it. And so it's Matt and Kendra Krager, our youth leaders. Kitchen and food pantry is Tammy Meskey. She is over what goes on the other side of that wall there. And then we also have a food pantry upstairs that I'll talk about in a little bit. And she's kind of oversees that. Children's ministry, of course, is Dawn Krager. She's been doing it for 47 years, not quite as long as Brandy has been head of the nursery, but since she was actually in children's ministry herself. Helps ministry is Mark Morvant. Helps ministry is when people need help, you know, whether it be like something physical, like yard care or moving, or you know, they just have need of something, then he tries to coordinate that and get her done. Worship, of course, is Alex Escalani. Hospitality is Elsa John. Women's ministry is Candace Morvant. I got those two reversed, Candace Morvant. And then the prayer team is my wife, Sherry Merrihew. She kind of leads that up. And I just kind of a bullet point on that one, because we handle a lot of sensitive nature on the prayer team. You know, people sometimes bring requests to us that they don't want other people to know, and sometimes they're very personal and oftentimes very sensitive. And so we kind of have that by invitation only. You know, like we would maybe approach somebody and ask them to pray about being part of the prayer team. Not so much a thing where you can fill out a ministry questionnaire and then get onto it that way, because you know, it just because of the very nature of it. I tried to think of a better term for this than chain of command, and I couldn't. So if again, if somebody's got a better term, let me know. But this is the chain of command of how things flow here in the church. Of course, senior pastor would be at the top. It kind of looks like an org chart, you know, for a CEO 500 or a 500 Fortune company or something. But the senior pastor is at the top, and this is kind of how it's laid out in our bylaws as well. And then the pastors or elders, the other pastors and elders would be under that. And then the ministry leader, the servant ministry leader, would be under them. You know, for example, Aaron, as I said, is the head of the cleaning ministry. Candace, the head of the women's ministry, so on and so forth. And then the ministry leader has their ministry helpers. These would be the people that just serve alongside them in ministry. And the reason why I'm sharing this, because all plans, complaints, ideas, any of that sort of thing should always flow uphill. You know, like don't make a bunch of plans and then bring them to me and say, what do you think about that? You know, because if you're in a ministry, then you think there's some good ideas that should be done, take it to the ministry leader first, and then they'll bring it up the chain, you know, and especially if you got any complaints, that's definitely the best way of doing that. That's kind of a Matthew 18 way, I think, of that. And by the way, and the things that I'm going to be covering tonight, just like the list of ministry leaders that I shared a minute ago, these are not in any particular order, okay? I started, when I got it all kind of compiled this afternoon, I started to kind of move things around a little bit, and I thought, I don't care. Just going to, because I don't know if there's any priority to it, and so it's it might be seemingly a little haphazard, but at this point anyway, they're not in any particular order. But the day, I think, is soon coming, and believe it or not, this is not a very, many churches have something similar to this. It's probably, especially some of the bigger Calvaries, bigger churches that I know of, they have something like this that is even more structured and more. Do you guys like the word mandatory? I don't like the word mandatory. I really don't. But more mandatory than what we have here. And the day is coming when this Servanthood 101 series will be got a better word? Mandatory for everyone who wants to serve in the ministry here. They'll have to either attend the classes or watch the classes online. I think it's and I was saying servant ministry leaders earlier, but that's kind of a redundant phrase because that would be like saying, in Greek that would be diakonos leaders. It's the same word. So any questions over this so far? Any input or anything? Okay, everybody got it? Okay. First item is under the title of Bringing Things to the Church. Now, I want you all to understand, and I don't know how to emphasize this any more than I know how to say it right now, but this is the most generous, giving, supportive community of believers that I've ever had the privilege of being involved with. And please don't stop doing that. We have people that have the gift of giving, and it's not just simply what they put in the agape boxes. It's just they give of time, talents, and resources without measure. And I don't want to curtail that in any way. But it seems that somebody has invented a teleportation device that causes things to just appear here in the church. It'll be a box of books or a bag of children's clothes. Sometimes it'll be in the foyer, sometimes it'll be in the nursery, but they just appear. There's no name on it, there's no instructions with it, they just appear. I don't know I don't know what to do with them. We look at them, we'll go around and ask, Christian and Brandy, and we'll say, I don't know where they came from. And so we don't know what we're supposed to do. Several years ago, we actually had somebody had a garage sale, and it appears as though what was left over from the garage sale, they brought here and put in the garage. And there was a sofa, dining room furniture, and there was a bunch of stuff that still had the garage sale tags, price tags on them, and it's things that they didn't sell. And they go, well, the church will want it, and so they brought it down. But the only way to put things in the garage is with a key, and we checked with everybody that's got keys, and nobody knew where they came from. We still, to this day, don't know how they got there. And we didn't know what to do with it. We had a garage full of stuff that we didn't know what to do with. So, things appear. You might want to bring some appliances here and donate them to the church, and that's fine. We're not wanting to curtail that in any way. If you just did that, I didn't know that. So again, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but if you want to do that, just asking that you please don't bring things to the kitchen or the nursery or the foyer or whatever without checking with the ministry of leader. Like checking with if you got a vacuum you want to donate to cleaning ministry, don't just have it appear in the foyer someday. Talk with Aaron and get permission and approval from whatever associated ministry leader or one of the pastors. Secondly, kind of related to that is, we got the foyer, that welcome center foyer table is right under the TV out there in the foyer. And then there's this missions table here, and then there's another one that's kind of right out there by the copier, just in the side of the foyer. And well-meaning people put stuff on there, in those locations. And if you've ever done that, I don't know who you are, and I'm not getting on to anybody. I'm just asking that you please don't do that. That you get permission to do that. Most of the stuff that gets placed there is good stuff. Okay, we've had tracts that have been put on the foyer table, and they're good tracts, and I don't have a problem with them. But we've had tracts that have been put on the foyer table that are not good stuff, and so we just ask that you get permission to do that, so that way we can just say we don't. That way I don't have to go to somebody that puts on a bad stuff and say, this is really junky. We can't put that on there. We can just say we don't put stuff on there without approval, and that way it just covers the whole board. not the board, but all the board, across the board. Okay, any questions on that? Okay. We have two very severe allergy issues in the church. One of them is latex, and we have people that are very acutely allergic to latex. And, we used to have a sign on the door. We had a lady in the church that was very acutely, a balloon. We had a balloon that was up here from VBS or something. It was up here in the front of the foyer one day, and she went into anaphylaxis when she walked in the door. So it's that kind of acuteness. And we had the sign on the door. They've moved away, and so we thought after a while we didn't need to do that anymore. But we have other people that are allergic in that sort of regard as well. So we'll probably be putting the sign back up, but we also just, no latex, no balloons or anything like that. We just can't have that anymore. And because of the allergies. And then we have people that are also very allergic to glitter, okay? Senior pastor being one of them, and all the people that are part of the cleaning ministry being the others. And so no glitter, all right? I know some greeting cards have glitter on them, and what do you do about that? Well, just bring a greeting card with glitter on it at your own risk. That's all I can say about that. But that's, man, that glitter is of the devil. I mean, I don't. If you like glitter, that's good on you. But just glitter at home, okay? Not here. Okay. Bulletin announcements. People want to put things in the bulletin, and that's fine. But this would be the protocol for doing that. It's got to be done in writing. And the reason for that is because people will come up to me and say, can we put in the bulletin that we're going to do something on such and such a date? And I say, sure. And then it doesn't get put in the bulletin because I've got a 73-year-old brain. And so, give it in writing and give it to either, one of the come through either your ministry leader or through the pastoral staff. And the deadline for anything that you want in the bulletin, like, for example, if you wanted something in this upcoming week's bulletin, the deadline was this afternoon, so it's too late. You can't do it this week. But the deadline is going to be Wednesday afternoon for the following bulletin printing, okay? The bulletin that would be coming up in that coming Sunday. So that's how we're going to handle bulletin announcements. I don't know who's in the foyer right now. And if you're out in the foyer, we're very glad you're here. Hi. But there have been some problems with that in the past. I haven't heard of anything recently, but I just thought this would be a good time to address it so we don't have to address it when it is a problem. But think of if ever you want to sit in the foyer during the service, you're welcome to. We would prefer you being in here. That way we can have interaction with the body of Christ and everything, and it would be better. But I understand the reasons why some people would want to stay out there, and so there's no restrictions on it. But just if you want to sit in the foyer, think of it as an extension of the sanctuary. Okay. Don't think of it as necessarily as an overflow room, but think of it as just think of it as if we were to add a few rows on the back of these chairs here. That's what the foyer is. I wouldn't talk out loud or carry on a conversation with somebody during the church service here in the sanctuary. I wouldn't do that. So I think we need to be sensitive to that, because there are people that are there, whether it's from children or health reasons or whatever it is, they're going to be out there, and they're wanting to hear the worship. They're wanting to, this is their worship time, and they're wanting to worship, and they want to be able to hear the teaching, and So just think of it in that regard. And, I talked to somebody about it one time, and they said, well, but everybody else is doing it too. And I said, well, yeah, but if I was carrying on a conversation with somebody in the sanctuary during a church service, and somebody said something to me about it, and I said, well, they're doing it over there too, that wouldn't make it okay, I mean, it's kind of just, so let's try to remember that. And if maybe an usher or one of the security team says something to you about it, here's the different ways that can be addressed if it happens. One would be you could get a very kind word from one of the ushers, or a very stern look. That would be one way. Or you could have your name mentioned from the pulpit. I mean, there are different ways that we could address that, but it would be better if we just, if we all thought of it as being an extension of the sanctuary, then I think that would take care of the problem. Okay? Any questions over that? We're making really good time, so you guys can jump in at any point. All right? None? So either everybody's really tracking with me, or people are so mad at me that they're not even going to speak. So it's okay. Cafe policies, and I was talking to Christian's sick, but we had talked about this a few weeks ago, and the formal times of Commission Coffee are going to be starting at 6:30 on Wednesday nights up until 6:50. And so all of your orders would have to be turned in by then. They won't take any orders after that. That gives them a chance to wrap up any orders and then close down the cafe so that they can get to be where they need to be by 7 o'clock, and everybody else can get out of the foyer. And, so it's from 6:30 to 6:50, and then it will run for whenever Christian gets done with his sermon. Afterwards, it'll go for another 30 minutes after that. Okay? And then on Sunday mornings, it's kind of the same thing, only a little more extended time. It'll run from 9 until 9:50 before the service, and then it'll run until 12:30 after the service. Okay? Which should, most people have had plenty of chance to get their cup of coffee by then. Also, the countertops out there have kind of become somewhat of a collection depot for all kinds of things, from gloves to children's artwork from the children's church, iPads, just all kinds of things. And the children's artwork I don't really care much about, but the iPads I will they're mine. Seriously, we just ask you to try to be conscious about that. I leave stuff around too. I get that. We're not going to be Nazis about it or anything like that. But if it's stuff like clothing and that kind of thing that gets left behind, we're going to put them in because we have to put them someplace. So we're going to put them in the lost and found. If we know whose they are, we'll try our best to get a hold of you. But most of the time we don't. So we're going to put them in the lost and found, and the lost and found is located through that door just outside my office, between my office and the nursery. Just inside that room between my office and the nursery, just inside there's a tub where we put lost and found type stuff. We don't normally put left Bibles in there. If we get left Bibles, people forget their Bibles, we will normally put those just inside the kitchen over on this side. Right there just inside the door where the light switch is, because we don't want the Bibles to get, into the big dark pit of lost and found. And then periodically, we'll always, we'll usually make an announcement of it, and we'll put up a table or so to let people know here's the lost and found, and go look and see if you've been wondering where that one lost sock is. It's there in the lost and found. And we'll do that before we take the stuff to the Goodwill. But, kind of help keep the counters clean and just kind of a lost and found announcement at the same time. And we'll do the periodic purges in it. Usually we'll try to give everybody a week or two to look on the tables and collect their stuff. But help with that. Questions? I actually have a note right here to ask if there's any questions. So, questions? Okay. Event policies. If you're wanting to use the building for something, whether it be a birthday party or a wedding or a funeral or whatever it could be, you know, we've always striven to try to keep the facilities here free of charge for the church family, and we want to continue to do that. You know, for parties, it's not that big of a deal. Just can't bring the balloons, but you know, you just need to let us know ahead of time. Again, talk to one of the pastoral staff or something to get it scheduled. And you know, for weddings and funerals, like for example, we just did a wedding a few weeks ago, and we had to come in here and completely strike all of the items on the platform and then stow them away for a 45-minute ceremony and then bring everything back up here and set it back up. That's just what it takes to do a wedding and a funeral. It's okay, but that takes a lot of manpower. And so, you know, try to figure that into the equation whenever you ask if you can do something like that. There's, you know, we have to have a sound person. We have to have manpower to carry the equipment or whatever it would be, and set things back up. Obviously, some of that takes some technological expertise that the AV ministry will want to oversee, but it would be unfair to them to have them do all of the work when some of it can be done by just manual labor. And so the cleaning up afterwards and everything, so just kind of factor that into it. I'm speaking for myself now, not Pastor Christian, but I think he would agree with me. You know, the Lord takes care of us. You know, we have salaries that are provided through the ministry, and we are sufficiently taken care of for our ministerial duties. And so I don't ask for honorariums. You know, I know I've known pastors that actually have set honorarium fees that they charge for stuff like that, and I don't care about that. I don't need that. But I would ask you to maybe be sensitive to the fact that we have people oftentimes have to come in on maybe their only free time that they have in a week, and they have to come in and do sound or do cleaning or something like that. So maybe just have that in mind whenever you schedule something to, you know, just kind of like when you do a wedding, you know, and it's kind of customary that you give gifts to the wedding party and stuff. Just something like that, just to have that kind of in mind, I think would be, nobody's asked me to do that. Nobody's ever complained or anything. This is just something that have been on, that I've thought of and have shared with the people that are you know, the sound people and cleaning people in the past. So yeah, we want the building to be available, and just understand that it does require, you know, we have to have somebody has to open up, somebody has to lock up, and everything that takes place in between just requires a lot of people, and sometimes it can, and oftentimes it takes care of itself. You know, people have birthday parties here, and there's somebody here that's got a key, and everybody pitches in and cleans up. They set up the tables and clean up everything afterwards, and there's no problem. Oftentimes that's the way it is. But then sometimes it's something that you know, requires a little bit more than that, and so you know, you wonder why some churches charge for usages of their facilities. That's why, and you know, they pay people to come in and take care of that sort of thing, and so. You know, we don't want to do that, but just kind of remember that that's a thing. Okay. Any questions over that? That's kind of an important one. No one? Okay. Building and playground safety. this door over here has one of those, you push the thing in and then there's a little hex key that locks it back, locks the panic bar down and unlocks it. And so essentially, everybody has the potential of having a key to unlock that door if you just have the right size hex key, the octagon-shaped keys. So we just want to say, please don't unlock it without letting the pastoral staff know that you've done that, or get permission from them to do that, because that's not something that always gets checked before we lock up, because it's hardly ever locked, the bar's hardly ever locked down, so we don't think to check it. But if the bar gets locked down, like say, it's a nice day and the kids are going outside and playing during a potluck, and that thing gets locked down, and then we leave and leave that door unlocked, the alarm sets because the contacts are making connection. But if the door gets open, then the alarm goes off, and also the building's unlocked. So we just want to ask that you don't do that without permission, and at the very least make sure that we know that when you've done it, so we can know to lock it up afterwards. And on the playground, we've talked about this a lot over the years about how to do it, and it's kind of hard because there's so many different layers and dynamics to it. We could say, there's a sign on the gate there that says must have adult supervision. Okay, define adult. Define supervision, and so it's kind of hard to really know what all that's going to actually look like. So what we're going to say is that during when I say church services, I'm not talking about between 10 and 11:30 or between 7 and 8:30 on a Wednesday night, but just when we're like right now, this is a church night, and so it's church service for as long as we're here. Sunday mornings would be from 9 o'clock until 2 o'clock or whenever, when people begin to leave, about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But just we need to have adult supervision that would be defined as, if you're a parent and your kid is out there, of course you can adultly supervise your kid. You don't need to get pastoral permission to go do that. But I would say that otherwise it's got to be somebody, an adult who has been approved by the church with a background check. We do federal background checks on everybody that's in children's ministry, everybody that's in the nursery, and all the ushers. Anybody that will be in contact or potentially be in contact with children in their commission of their ministry, they have to sign a consent form, and we do a federal background check on them. It's just the day and age that we live in. And so on church times, we need to have it's got to be either a parent there overseeing their kid, or somebody that is approved by that. They've filled out a background check, and they're serving in one of those ministries. Now, we have sometimes, like VBS, we'll have parents that will come and work on the VBS, and they tell their kids to go play out in the playground. That's what I'm talking about, the different layers and different kind of things that can be kind of make that kind of complicated. And they're thinking it's just like playing out in your backyard, except we got a lot more. Our equipment's killer than what you have in your backyard. And that's okay, but in times like that, I understand that. Just know if your kids get hurt, it's on you, okay? So, seriously, I just, there are exceptions to that, but during church times, like Wednesdays and Sundays or VBS, and, when we're having official functions, we need to have that. Either have a parent that's taking care of their kids, and if that kid comes in, then that parent would come in with their kid, and then we need to have some kind of authorized background checked adult out there with them. Okay? Any questions over that? Because I know that's a little open-ended and might, yeah.
On the door thing, is that something we need to talk
you could talk to Levi. I would prefer you talk to either me or Christian about it, because Levi doesn't lock up. And it's usually would be one or the other of us that locks up, or Brandy, or somebody that's going to be locking up. It's not so much they need to necessarily have permission. That's fine. That's a good thing. But it's more of just so that we know that it's happened. Okay? So the question was about that door. Did they do the check with Levi because he's the security guy? Yeah, it's not. That's really. That's a good point. I don't really think that's necessarily an issue, is because we're all here. I mean, it wouldn't be a problem with having that door open. The problem is getting the door unopened when we're done. So, yeah. Anybody else? Okay. I have here kids running in the church, kids running in the church, kids running in the church, and kids running in the church. I have that down here. So let's talk about kids running in the church. I'm probably not, but sometimes it feels like I'm the only one that ever says anything. I know Alex does, but help us out here, okay? We might have to put some parents in timeout, is kind of what I'm talking about. Because, I mean, I've told, and I get the whole thing about how, I mean, kids are creative, and they've perfected this skip thing that they say technically is not running. And as long as there's 1 foot on the ground at any time, then they consider 60 miles an hour is not running, But it's dangerous. We've had kids that have gotten hurt, but we've also had, we've had like 73-year-old guys with arms in a sling that have gotten hurt. And so we need to be cognizant of that as well. So, if you see kids running, tell them to stop running. And if they ignore you, then tell Levi and bring in the security. Yeah, they are so good at. No, it's a long-standing tradition. It's just nobody's. The parents haven't listened any better than the kids have. And teach them to use their inside voices when they're inside. That would be a good thing, especially here in the sanctuary. This room is pretty hot acoustically. It's a very hot room. And, there's a lot of times where you can't carry on a conversation with all, especially when the weather's bad and they can't go outside. I get it, they're kids. We want them to be able to play. That's one of the reasons why we've had this 34-year tradition. I don't want them to all look like the Stepford children or Children of the Corn. I want them to be able to have fun, but so help us in that regard. And then this is kind of a minor thing, not really that important, but the visitors' cards and the offering envelopes that are backed by the agape boxes. If you notice your kids doodling on them, I'd prefer they didn't. But if they they got to doodle on something. If you don't have something, I don't care. But then take that doodle and tape it to your refrigerator door, and or put it in the scrapbook or something. Because what happens is the kids doodle on the cards and then they stick them back in the slot. And the only time we find out that they've been doodled is when a visitor fills out a visitor's card and he's trying to write their name and phone number in between these stick figures of, the zombie apocalypse, and so not necessarily the best first impression. Now, if on the offering envelopes, if the kids want to make a donation, they can doodle till their heart's content. Okay, I don't care about that. But if they're just going to be doodling on it, then ask you to just, if you could kind of look out for that and not let them stay laying around. I mentioned the food pantry earlier, and I don't know how many of you know it, but we do have a food pantry upstairs. Tammy is the overseer of it, and it's non-perishable dry goods. We do have some sanitary stuff, toothpaste and toothbrushes and some things like that we have. It's open to the public. We typically, it's open to the church and the public. If anybody in the church needs it, it's open to you guys at any time. It'd be good that you ask, but just so we didn't, because it helps us with the inventory if we know what's been taken. And Tammy kind of takes care of that part of it, so, that would be fine. But for people that are outside the church, we typically tell them that it's open after church services. And the idea is to try to see if we can get them, because they're just coming to get some food, but if we can get them to come to the church service first, then that's even better. So just know that we have that, it's available, and if you know somebody that's in need and they need some help in that regard, feel free to let us know about it, and we'll do what we can regarding that. And it's located, it's in that little corridor thing upstairs, isn't it? Isn't that where it still is now? So just like where that door is there, if you're upstairs, that corridor's got some shelving in it that's where we keep the food pantry. You can't get to it this way, though. You have to go up the stairs to get to it, which are out by the front door. And I just got one more thing, and then we'll see if they got any questions. And doing good. We got the Children's Church TV in whatever classroom that is over there, the one that's right next to the one in the middle on that side, 5 to 7, I think, is what its age is. And we got that TV, and it's kind of set up with, there's a children's YouTube account set up on it, and so, that's when if your kid's going to open up YouTube, it's going to be, you're going to see that rather than WWE or whatever, coming up on the feed. We use that for ministry, but it's also, it could be used if you're here and you need your kid that's what it's for. It's attached to the internet, we have it's a smart TV, and you can get all kinds of stuff like that on it. We also have the one in the nursery but we didn't used to have the one in the children's church, but now we have that, so that could maybe take some of the use off of the nursery one. But Brandy said that she would prefer, she basically uses that TV during on church times, during church services. They either have the live stream going, or she'll be watching children's worship videos, or Minnow TV, which is Christian, kid stuff. Most of it's animated, I think, isn't it? Animated stuff. She said she usually tells the nursery workers this. So those of you that serve in the nursery, you already know this. But just on Wednesdays and Sundays, and during church times, church services, try to keep it to that. She just like to keep it like with a spiritual vibe on it. I think is her mindset. Also, the remote, we keep on that shelving right below the TV, out of the reach of the kids. And so the only ones that should use the remote are either the nursery workers or the youth nursery helpers. They can reach up, kids that can reach it. But if you're not part of one of those two things, you probably shouldn't be using the TV anyway, because we got the other one. So we'd prefer to keep the remote out of the hands of the toddlers and the nursery workers. So there's that. And I think that's all I've got for right now. We might have a Servanthood week part 4 or part 5, though, coming up, because I feel like I haven't addressed everything. Any questions? Any comments? Any complaints? Anybody want to tell me that I did a really good job? Okay. Thank you. When you got begged for it, it's not worth anything. Okay. Thank you all for being part of this. I feel, I always have the fear when I address stuff like this that somebody just brought some appliance and gave to the kitchen and they think that or I'm coming off too harsh or something. And I really, you guys know me. Some of you do. Most of you do. And that's just not my way. But I think it's going to be it'll just make the church better, and it'll give more glory to God if we kind of oil the gears a little better, and so that's kind of the goal of this. Kind of as a rule of thumb, we don't have a lot of like procedural manuals and that sort of stuff. We don't have that here. And just as a rule of thumb, if you don't know, check with either your ministry leader if you're involved in a ministry, or with one of the pastors, or just check with somebody. And there was one other thing on that line that I forgot that, but it'll come to me tonight midnight. So keep your phones open, because I'll probably be texting you tonight around 12:05 when I remember it. Okay. All right. God, we thank you for the privilege again that we have of being able to serve you. I think if I were in your place, I wouldn't be using people like me. I think I would have my standards a lot higher, and yet I'm not, and you are, and and I don't. And so we're so grateful for the privilege that you give us to serve you, and it pleases you to be able to work through critters like us, and I know it gives you much pleasure and much glory in the process, and so we're grateful for it. Help us to be the best that we can, though, just simply because it's free and it's full of grace, and you let us do it. That doesn't mean that we should take any of our service to you in a haphazard way, and so help us to be the best we can. Help this church to be the best that it can be, and God, just let us serve you with all that we have until you come for us. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.